Two guys, Jace and Logan, work the same job, make the exact same $90,000 salary, and buy the same coffee on their morning commute. Then, in the exact same week, both get hit with a surprise $1,400 car repair. Jace taps his card, pays the mechanic, and goes right back to scrolling his phone. He doesn't flinch. Logan, on the other hand, reads the estimate 3 times, feels his stomach drop, and frantically opens his banking app to figure out which bills he can push to next month. Same exact income, 2 completely different realities. We obsess over income. We measure success by the salary, the raise, the size of the paycheck. But income is just the water flowing through your hands. Net worth is the water that actually stays in the bucket. We assume getting wealthier means adding more to that bucket. More cars, larger houses, a higher standard of living. When your spending drifts up right behind every raise, your lifestyle silently eats your future to feed your present. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You buy the nicer car, the thrill wears off, but the hefty monthly payment stays. It forces people pulling in $300,000 a year to live completely strapped for cash, dodging the exact same financial panics as Logan. Real wealth is measured by the fears and friction you permanently delete from your life. There are 3 specific mathematical thresholds along the net worth number line where that deletion actually happens. We start with level 1, $100,000, escape velocity. For some, this number feels impossibly distant. For others, almost insultingly low. But the climb to that first $100,000 is the absolute slowest, most physically grueling stretch of the entire journey. The late billionaire Charlie Munger used to say that getting your hands on your first $100,000 is an absolute beast, but you have to do it. You have to scrape it together however you can, because up until that point, you're doing 100% of the heavy lifting. This chart shows exactly why it feels like a slog. If you save and invest $10,000 a year, earning a standard 7% return, getting from zero to your first $100,000 takes roughly 8 years. The market is barely helping you. Almost every single dollar in that account is a dollar you personally earned, saved, and refused to spend. The real magic of this threshold is what happens to your brain. Researchers set up in a New Jersey mall and asked regular shoppers to imagine facing a surprise car repair. Half the group was told the repair cost $150. The other half was told $1,500. Then everyone took a standard cognitive test to measure their raw problem-solving skills. This graph shows the results. The wealthier shoppers saw absolutely no difference in their scores across the 2 scenarios. Of the lower-income shoppers who had to imagine coming up with $1,500, scored dramatically worse, about a full standard deviation lower. Spending just 30 seconds worrying about money they didn't have taxed their brains so heavily, the researchers compared it to losing a full night of sleep. The Federal Reserve recently found that nearly 30% of American adults couldn't handle a surprise $500 expense using their cash or savings. That means millions of people are walking through their entire lives, parenting, working, making decisions, permanently sleep-deprived by a low-grade financial static. Reaching that $100,000 mark does not buy you a yacht. It buys you a quiet mind. It performs the first major subtraction, deleting the constant background calculation of survival. Once that static clears, you hit level 2, $500,000 to a full $1 million. This is the strangest stretch of the journey, because for the very first time, the most productive worker in your household is no longer a person. This line graph shows how the physics of compounding completely change. Going from $0 to $100,000 took 8 years, but going from $100,000 to $200,000 takes about 5. From $200,000 to $300,000 takes under 4. The timeline compresses because your money has officially clocked in for its first day of work. Look at the $500,000 mark. Invested at that same 7% return, a $500,000 portfolio generates around $35,000 a year, entirely on its own. Your investments are now pulling in a highly respectable second income. Push that to a full $1 million, and that 7% throws off $70,000 annually. Your capital now out-earns a typical full-time American salary. It does this while you sleep, while you take a vacation, and it never asks for a sick day. Having that machine running in the background quietly removes everyday frictions. You stop checking the price of every grocery item before it goes in the cart. You book the direct flight instead of suffering a miserable layover to save $60. If the dishwasher dies, the crisis lasts exactly 4 minutes while you buy a replacement online. Level 2 executes the second great subtraction, the fear of your employer. When your boss demands something completely unreasonable, you realize calmly that you could walk away. You might not quit today, but knowing you have the option permanently rewires what you tolerate. Then we reach level 3, sitting between $2.5 and $5 million. In the movie The Gambler, John Goodman lays out an entire philosophy of money, explaining that the absolute goal is to hit a specific number that makes you permanently untouchable. He calls it FU money, a position where no bank and no boss can make you do anything you don't want to do. This equation shows exactly how that cinematic concept works mathematically. It's built on the 4% rule, a standard measure for how much you can withdraw annually without draining your portfolio. Multiply your yearly expenses by 25. If your life costs $40,000 a year, your target is $1 million. If you spend $80,000, it's $2 million. And if you want to fund a $100,000 lifestyle indefinitely without working another day, you need $2.5 million. Mathematically, this is total financial independence. Yet, this is also the exact level where the most brutal trap waits. People hit $5 million and assume a meaningful life will automatically arrive in the mail. When it doesn't, they are miserable. A massive study by researcher Matthew Killingsworth tracking real-time mood reports finally explained why. For about 80% of people, earning more money consistently boosts their happiness. But for the unhappiest 20% of the population, money only relieves their suffering up to about $100,000 a year, and then it totally flatlines. Why? Because their misery was never caused by a lack of money. A massive net worth cannot solve a problem it didn't create. The people who reach level 3 and actually feel different are the ones who understand what they are buying. They aren't buying mansions or boats. They are permanently deleting the world's claim on their most finite, non-renewable resource, their own time. If you are looking at these numbers and feeling impossibly behind, stop. The goal isn't to suddenly acquire infinite wealth by tomorrow. The goal is simply to survive the boring, unglamorous slog to level 1. If you can stay stubborn enough to push that snowball up the hill to $100,000, the math stops fighting you and starts working for you. We are taught to treat money as a tool for addition, but real wealth is entirely about subtraction. Level 1 subtracts the panic of an emergency. Level 2 subtracts the fear of being trapped. And level 3 subtracts the loss of your own hours. You don't have to win the lottery to change your reality. You just have to choose which fear you're going to delete next.